If you're decluttering your home, you already know that you have so many things to go through and so many decisions to make. And unfortunately, a lot of times those decisions can come with some guilt. I'm here to help you downsize and declutter without all that guilt and shame. My name is Sheila, and I am a downsizing mentor. I help women who are going through major life transitions declutter their homes and their minds so that they can move forward into the next step of their journey with less stress and more peace. In this video, I'm going to be sharing 10 decluttering tips for downsizing guilt-free. Rule number 1 is the organizing can wait rule. Now, you might be confused by that because after all, you clicked on this video to figure out how to get your home in order, right? And here I am telling you organizing can wait. And that's true because organizing and decluttering are not the same thing. A lot of times people will tell me, hey, I'm going to declutter my house, and they run to Container Store and spend hundreds of dollars on cute little bins and baskets, and they think that they are decluttering. My friend, I'm going to hold your hand when I say this, but that is not decluttering. Decluttering and organizing are two completely different things. And so you have to treat them differently. If you try to do them at the same time, it's not going to work. Right now, we are focused on decluttering, which is deciding what you're keeping and what you're not keeping. That's it. That's all decluttering is. We get all of this idea that it's so complicated and it's so mystical and hard to understand. Decluttering is simply a way of deciding what am I keeping, what am I not keeping. That's all decluttering is, and that's all we're working on right now. So the bins and the baskets, as much as I love a good bin and a basket, those can wait until later. Rule number 2 is the keep first rule. This is where you first decide what you're keeping and then you decide what you're letting go of. Again, that might seem a little backwards, especially if you have watched other decluttering videos. A lot of so-called experts will tell you to make a pile and then look at the pile and decide what you want to let go of and what's no longer serving you and what you no longer need. And the problem with that, whether you're an adult or a child, is that when you're looking at that pile, it can feel like a loss to let that stuff go, especially if you have a lot of sentimental memories tied up in that, or you've just been through a major loss. Let's say you've just gone through a divorce, a death, a job loss. Maybe that's the reason that you're downsizing. Now you're looking at this mountain of stuff and you're having to decide, what am I going to say goodbye to? And it's like another goodbye. It's like another loss. So let's just honor the fact that you're going through a really hard time right now. And instead of deciding what you are getting rid of or letting go of, let's look at that pile and look at it completely differently. What do you get to keep? When my husband lost his job several years ago, I had to apply the keep first rule to everything. We were living in our beautiful dream home, and now we were going to be downsizing to a house about 1/4 that size, and we had 5 little kids. So I went through every cabinet, every drawer, every closet. I would pull everything out, look at the pile, and ask myself, if we had to move, what would I take with me? What would I want to keep? And that made it so much easier to go through that process. Whereas if I had looked at the pile and said, what am I willing to let go of or get rid of, it would have been a lot harder. So I encourage you, as you are pulling things out to declutter, look at the pile and ask yourself, what is so important to me that I can't imagine my life without it? I really want to keep it. That makes it so much easier than looking at it the other way, like what am I willing to lose or give up? I like to think of it in terms of about 50%. So when I look at this pile of stuff, I look at it and I say, okay, if I could only keep 50% of this, which would be my top picks? Or if there were a flood, like what happened to us one time, we lost almost everything in a flood. If a flood happened, but I got to keep some of this stuff, let's say I even got to keep half of it. We didn't get to keep half, but if I got to keep half of this stuff after the flood, which half would I want to keep? And so sometimes that can help you to kind of get the wheels turning as to what it is that you really do want to keep. And it gets you focused on what you're keeping and what you still get to hold on to versus what you are letting go of. It makes it so much easier to look at it that way, especially if you have just gone through a really difficult loss. And by the way, this tip is also really helpful for kids because when they look at their stuff, they want to pick out their favorites. Instead of looking at the pile and thinking that they have to lose something, it's much easier for them to look at the pile and think, what are my favorites and what do I get to keep? Rule number 3 is the either or rule, also known as stuff can't fence sit. So what does that mean? It means that your stuff is either adding value to your life or it's not. Stuff cannot be in the middle. There is no neutral ground for stuff. It's just stuff. It's not a person. Either it's bringing you joy and bringing you value or it's not. And so when we look at our stuff, sometimes we tend to like hem and haw and think that there's some middle ground, and we use words like maybe and someday and might. Like, maybe I'll use this again. Someday that could come in handy. Oh, I might need that. If you find yourself saying maybe or someday or might, then you already know which side of the fence you're on with that stuff. if you say that maybe you're going to need it or someday you're going to need it or you might use it, those are cues that it's okay to let those things go. A lot of times we want to assign a value to stuff and we think, well, but it's useful, that I should keep this because it's useful. But is it useful to you? And is it useful to you right now at this moment in your life? If not, it's okay to let it go. So remember, stuff doesn't fence sit. Either it's adding value to your life or it's not. And if it's not, it's okay to let it go. Permission to let it go, regardless of how much it costs, regardless of if it was a gift. If it's not bringing value to your life, you can let it go. Rule number 4 is the 90% rule. If it's not a heck yes, it's a no. If you were to take everything in your home and give it a score on a scale of 0 to 100, you would want it to be 90% or above. You would want it to be an A. So if you don't like it at least 90%, then it's okay to let it go. I used to think that I had to keep everything because it was free or it was a gift or maybe I'll use it someday or this person said that I should have it, so I'm going to get it and I'm just going to hold on to it. And that did not serve me at all. Now I look at things and I decide, do I like this? Like a 90 to 100 on a 100-point scale? If so, I'll keep it. If not, I'm going to pass it on so that someone else can use it. If you find yourself just being kind of indifferent to it, like, I don't even know if I like that anymore. I don't know if I like the color. I don't know if I like the way that item of clothing fits. Let it go. It doesn't matter. That is not a heck yes, so it's a no. Rule number 5, embrace the space. Don't be afraid of empty countertops, empty cabinets, empty shelves on your bookshelf. So often we are conditioned to think that just because we have the space, we have to fill it. We get a house, we fill it with stuff. We get a bigger house, we fill it with more stuff. When that stuff overflows from the house, we fill up the garage, the basement, the attic. When those spaces get filled, we fill a storage unit and maybe another storage unit. It's time to stop that madness and learn to really appreciate the value of an empty space. I started this with my kitchen countertops. I would take everything off, the toaster, everything, move it off, wipe the countertop down, and then let it kind of just rest. Let that space just rest and breathe. And I think that what you will find as you do this throughout your house is that you don't want to really put anything back there. Or maybe you put back 1 or 2 little purposeful items, things that are really special to you. But I think you'll find that as you have some empty spaces in your home, you won't want to clutter them up again. Those empty spaces in your home are kind of like a deep breath for your house. It's like if you went through your day holding your breath and never really taking a good deep breath, it would be really hard to get anything done, right? It's the same way in your house. If you don't have that empty space for your room to breathe, so to speak, it's going to be really difficult for you to function in that space. So embrace the space. Pick one little area, maybe one part of your kitchen counter, clear it all the way off, everything gone. Wipe it down, and then don't put anything else back there, and challenge yourself. See if you can do that for a week and then see how you feel. I'm betting that you won't want to put anything back there. After you enjoy a week of that empty space, you're not going to want to junk it up again. So try that and let me know what you think. Your stuff can create a lot of clutter and chaos, not only in your physical environment, but also in your mind. And so when you have this clear, empty space that's just nice and cleared off and wiped off, and you walk into that room and your eye scans the room and you have that safe, calm, empty space to land on, it can just be a really calming feeling and it can help you to feel more settled. So embrace the space. Don't be afraid of empty space. Rule number 6, the today rule. This is where we decide, is this item serving the current me, the version of myself today, or some former version of me, or maybe some imaginary future version of me? And the best place to start with this is with your clothing. So maybe you have clothes where you've gone up a size or down a size or several sizes, and you think, oh, I'm going to hang on to this in case I get to that size again, or I'm going to hold on to this in case I need it again. It is time to let it go. What if you walked into your closet and you had given yourself the gift of knowing that everything in that closet fit you today? That you could walk in there and pick out anything and it would fit, it would look good on you, you would be reasonably happy with how the color looks on you, and you would be able to walk out ready for the day without having to sift through dozens or maybe hundreds of other things that just don't work, but you're holding on to them and they are in your way. Some people call this the hospital rule. Meaning if you had to go visit a relative in the hospital and you had no notice and you needed someone to go and grab you a change of clothes, would you be able to say to them, hey, go into my closet and just grab anything? If so, you're on the right track. But if you would have to tell them, hey, I need you to sift through 90% of my closet because none of it fits, and I need you to find this one thing amidst the other 100 shirts, then that's a pretty good sign that it's okay to let go some of that clothing inventory and scale it down. You deserve to have clothes that fit your current body. You deserve to feel comfortable in your clothing and not stuffed into it if you've gone up in size. The today rule also applies to hobbies. Maybe at one point you thought you were going to be a quilter and you accumulated a whole bunch of fabric and a sewing machine and all these things, and then you decided that it wasn't for you. You no longer enjoy it. It's taking up space in your room. It's time to let that go. And it's true for any sort of hobby or, like I said, even clothing that doesn't fit. Remember, your home should be designed to fit you. Your stuff should be there to serve you and not the other way around. If it's not serving the today version of you, then it doesn't belong in your home. The former version of you doesn't live in your home. The today version of you does. Rule number 7 is the 20/20 rule, also known as the just in case rule. I think this rule originally came from the minimalists, and they talk about how if you're decluttering an item and you're not really sure whether to keep it or let it go, if it's something that you could replace in 20 minutes for less than $20, let it go. But actually, the chances of you ever wanting to replace it are so slim. And even if you did decide that you needed that one kitchen gadget or that one item after decluttering it, then you could go back and replace it in 20 minutes for less than $20, like we've already decided. But which would you rather have? Would you rather get rid of 1,000 items and then find out that there was one that you kind of wish you still had, and so you go out and replace it for $20? Or would you rather keep 999 items that you don't need just because you didn't want to get rid of the one that you might have to replace someday? So if it's something that is fairly inexpensive and quick to replace, when in doubt, leave it out and just let that go with no guilt. If you've gotten any value out of this video so far, please let me know by hitting that subscribe button so that I can reach more people and help more people. Thank you so much. Let's keep going. Rule number 8 is digitize, don't drown. And this pertains to your physical media. So things like photo albums, family pictures, old VHS tapes, home movies, all that kind of stuff. It takes up so much space. And there are a couple of reasons to downsize it. Number 1, to free up the space. And number 2, to protect those memories. If those home movies are sitting in a cardboard box somewhere in a corner of your garage or in your basement or in a closet, no one is enjoying them. And if, heaven forbid, something happened to your home, those memories would be wiped out anyway because you wouldn't be able to get them back. Whereas if you digitize them, you can immediately start sharing them with loved ones. You can put them in the cloud. You can share them that way. You can put them on a thumb drive. You can mail the little drives to people, however you want to do it. But you will have ways to share those memories so that you're not the only one just holding them in a box. You are able to get them out into the world and share them with the people that matter most to you. So I highly encourage you to digitize all of those things. Now that does take a lot of time, and it is a big effort. So this is one area where I would recommend hiring a professional to help you. And you could use a service like iMemories. This video is not sponsored, but you could use iMemories and you ship them your box of home movies. They put them all in digital formats for you. So then everything is digitized and you are not drowning in all of that stuff. Rule number 9, the take it or leave it rule. This applies to any friends or family members who are storing items at your place. This might feel like a little bit of tough love, but hear me out here. If people are storing stuff for free at your place and you are deciding to downsize, this is a time for them to come get their stuff and for them to take care of it in their place. So give them a deadline, let them know, hey, I'm downsizing. You have until this date and time to come get your stuff. And if you don't, then I'm just going to be donating it. What I have found most of the time is that when you reach out to those friends and family members who've been storing that stuff, either they have completely forgotten about it or they've decided that they don't need it. They've already moved on with their lives. You're left holding their stuff. So it is a very loving act to you and to them to reach out to them and say, hey, I'm just coming back and saying, what do you want to do with this stuff? Let's figure it out. You deserve to move into this next stage of your life without carrying everyone else's clutter with you. So it's time for everybody else to come get their stuff and free up that space for you. Which brings us to rule number 10, the now or later rule. The truth is that someday each one of us will leave this earth. And the question is, do you want to deal with your clutter now? Or do you want your loved ones to have to deal with it after you're gone? My husband's parents died 3 weeks apart, and they had a house full of stuff as well as multiple storage units. And it took all of the siblings days upon days upon days of exhausting work to go through everything. I absolutely love my in-laws, and I know that it was really hard for their children to have to go through all that stuff while they were grieving to then have to make all of these thousands and thousands of decisions about each individual item and what to keep and what to let go of. When that happened, I came back to my own house and I saw everything with different eyes. Even though I was only in my 30s, I didn't think that, I was leaving this earth anytime soon, but still it gave me this perspective. With each item that comes into my house, I ask myself, would I want my children to have to deal with this after I'm gone? And if the answer is no, it makes it so much easier to let it go. So especially if you are in a state of transition, maybe you're going through a major life change right now, and even whether you have children or not, you can look at those items and say, would I want my friends, my family, the people who love me to have to deal with this and touch it and go through it and decide about it after I'm gone? Or would I rather just go ahead and do it right now? So that is the now or later rule. If you don't deal with it now, they will have to deal with it later. And as I do in most of my videos, I'm going to take a moment here to remind you to be gentle with yourself. You did not get in this position of having all this stuff all in one moment, and so it's going to take more than just one moment for you to go through it and make these decisions. Be gentle with yourself. This is not the time to beat yourself up, and if it does feel overwhelming, just know that you're not alone. I am here to help. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out this downsizing video right here. I'll meet you there.